3 or more touchdowns. No other player has more than one. So this Colts team has been phenomenal. A guy who's been on the sideline for one of the games thus far. This will be his second Colts game of the season. Evan Washburn for Colts at Steelers. So, look, you know this Colts team, that they're believers in themselves. It does seem, though, that there are others, maybe the lady sitting next to me, that have yet to fully buy into this team. Why do we think some people are hesitant on that?
Because we didn't see this coming, Amanda. It's completely normal. It's honestly understandable. I wasn't a Colts believer until I saw it in person in LA, but I am a believer. And I think over the course of time, and really the next 3 weeks or 3 games over the course of 4 weeks, because they have the Steelers on the road. They play the Falcons in Berlin. Maybe not the challenge in terms of opponent, but it's a unique environment and all the things that go with it are a challenge. Bye week, and then they got the Chiefs. So if you're not a believer and they're able to get through this gauntlet over the next month, then it would be hard-pressed not to believe in what they can do. And I think what makes them special right now starts with their offense, and they have the best player in the NFL in terms of performance in Jonathan Taylor, and they have a real belief in one another, and they recognize that they have a lot to prove over the second half of this season. They're okay with it. They don't need all the flowers right now. They're more interested in those coming in January. And they have a defense that is a bit of a vulnerability at times, but I think if you look deeper, is playing pretty well.
We asked you for an impact player to watch, and I love the guy you gave me, because last week it was, what was it called? It's National Tight Ends Day or whatever it was, and we needed a anytime scorer for a tight end, and I went with Tyler Warren, and thankfully he got me that. Why is he your impact player to watch?
Because along with Daniel Jones, he's been the biggest difference maker on this offense when you look at what they had a year ago to where they are now. He's the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Where they got him in the draft shocked everybody within that organization. They couldn't put it in that card fast enough to get Tyler Warren in a Colts uniform. And he's proved to live up to their expectation. And yeah, there's the numbers, but he really does everything. He's part of the run game. He's basically on the field, aligned in so many different areas, so he's challenging defenses. And the reason he's the matchup or player to watch in this one, Amanda, is if you look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers most recently on Sunday Night Football struggled with most, it's defending tight ends. Tucker Kraft had an absolute day in that game. So they lose to Sean Elliott. They're really their safety who covers tight ends due to a knee injury. So I see Tyler Warren as a guy that could really break this game open for Indianapolis.
You mentioned if there is some sort of liability for the Colts, you're kind of looking at the defense. What are the concerns there, if any?
It's their back end, Amanda. They got hit hard by injuries going all the way back to training camp. Justin Wally, one of their top picks, he's expected to be a starter at corner. He goes down with a torn ACL. And then in recent weeks, we've seen Charvarius Ward, their top corner, suffered his second concussion of the season during pregame warmups. He's on IR, so there's hopes he could come back. They've been hit hard at that spot. So they've got a lot of guys playing, I would say, larger roles than they expected, and they've held up pretty well. A lot of the yards they've given up, if you look at it, it's been in the second half when they've been up by a lot of points. So that's not really a reflection truly of how good they've played. The points per game totals, top 10, that's really where you hang your hat, obviously, as a defense. But again, as they go up against an Aaron Rodgers who will challenge them, and they face a Patrick Mahomes, and down the stretch of the season, that defense is going to have to play up to the standard that maybe not their offense is set, because that's historic, but at least in that ballpark.
Let's go to the other side. Let's talk about the Steelers here. They now have back-to-back losses, which, look, obviously nobody loves if you're a Steelers fan. What's the level of concern there for this team that had a chance to really make a move in this division and just kind of fell flat?
I'm kind of teetering on kind of not panic, but real concern. Or is this just a lull for a team that is littered with vets and all pros, and I think it's still figuring themselves out. I think the way they started the season, and I imagine they would tell you this to some, in some ways as well. I mean, as early as week 1, I mean, they won that Jets game based off a couple plays late, and that's really this league in a nutshell. But I think for Pittsburgh, the margin for error is relatively small. Their defense has to play a bunch better, and they know that. We might get to it. But they haven't taken the ball away since week 4, and they've turned it over 3 times, and they've increased their penalty totals almost twofold over the course of that stretch. So those are 3 areas that they can view as, hey, we clean these things up, we're back to the team that started the season 4-1. But it's real. They've faced some adversity, and they've admitted that they haven't handled it well in game. That's what makes Sunday so interesting, fun, fascinating, intriguing, all those adjectives. To me, this is a desperate Steelers team in the sense that not they need to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive, but they need to reset kind of where they are mentally going into the back half of the season, and they face the most explosive team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, and you've even had guys like veteran Cam Heyward saying it doesn't feel like the fight is there for the Steelers team. You mentioned the defense. I was listening to a podcast earlier saying maybe this is the worst defense Mike Tomlin has ever had in his, almost 20 years there. What is going on with this defense?
It's pretty stunning, Amanda. You mentioned it. And even Mike Tomlin lent words during training camp about what he thought this defense could be in terms of all-time units, or the highest paid defense in the NFL. These are all kind of buzzwords, buzz phrases that kind of sets the alarms off for exactly what you asked. What's going wrong? Well, I think there are a number of things, but you have to start with the back end. And that's really where they did a lot of reconstruction in the offseason, bringing in Jalen Ramsey, signing Darius Slay, Juan Thornhill, and they just haven't played up to the standard, to use a Mike Tomlin term. And I think the Deshaun Elliott injury last week, the knee injury that hopefully isn't season ending, that was kind of the concern coming out of that game. He hasn't been placed on IR yet, is a big one because he's so big in their run game. He covers tight ends. We touched on that. And it's forcing a lot of guys coming in and out of the game. That impacts communication. And when you're playing a Colts offense or a Jordan Love, LaFleur offense, you're challenged in that area. And I think communication in the back end has been a problem. I do believe there's a version of events where they fix this, largely based off of generating more pressure up front. Guys get the ball out super quick against this defense because of TJ Watt, Cam Heyward, Highsmith, Herbig, and company. But if they can pick up that department, give their back end a little help, I think there's a version where they get back to playing close to what they expected. Maybe not that historic level that some had them in to start the season, but at least not be the reason they're losing games.
Let me ask you this out of curiosity, going back to the Colts and talking about Carly Ursay-Gordon. What week did you have them initially?
Sorry, Amanda, can you say again?
What week did you have the Colts initially?
It was the Charger game. So that was 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so not that long. But I wanted to ask you about Carly Ursay-Gordon. We've seen her on the sideline, and people are giving her so much credit for getting this team to where they are. I don't know if you know this yet, or maybe you guys will talk to the players about it. How has that relationship been kind of behind the scenes? We see it on the sideline. We see her there. How has it been kind of between her and the players or the coaching staff or anything like that? This is pure curiosity.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it has been. Anybody that opens their phone, any form of content, whether it's social media or otherwise, it's become a story, and hopefully continues to be a positive one because it is different. And we haven't had long form conversations with players or coaches to this point about how they view all of this, but it's clear visually just how much they appreciate it and just how involved she is. And I think the key point, and it was brought up during the broadcast last week in their game against the Titans, Charles Davis, Jason McCourty, Edric Catalan bringing up that this has been her role and her function for a number of years. And yes, her title has changed due to the passing of her father. So she's now thrust into more of a spotlight. And that's how things work in our world. And I understand that. I think they understand that. But they view it as business as usual. And just the level of detail and attention to detail she brings to the position. It's not just game day, too. I think that was one of the things I learned. This is practice field, checking in on meetings, and not in a micromanaging sort of way. It's just to be informed. And I think that's what people are starting to learn and hopefully latching onto, as opposed to it just being different than what we normally see, because it is a way of doing business that I don't know if it's why they're 7-1, but it's all part of a group that is so aligned right now, and the product on the field is exposing that in such a positive way.
Yeah, it's been so incredible just to watch her, just praising another woman in sports and at that level and a position. It's phenomenal. Evan, have a great call this week.
Steelers Nation, once again, the national media is calling out our team. You've heard it. This might be the worst defense Mike Tomlin has had in 20 years. That's the line that set off alarms across Pittsburgh. And yeah, the numbers haven't been good. The defense ranks near the bottom of the league, 30th in yards allowed, 25 points per game given up, and 360 yards allowed to Jordan Love. But here's the truth they're missing. This story isn't over, and this defense isn't done. Let's be real, the problems are real. The Steelers have struggled badly against tight ends. Tucker Kraft torched them on Sunday Night Football, and the loss of safety Deshaun Elliott to a knee injury has left a hole in coverage and communication. That's why ESPN analysts said Indianapolis tight end Tyler Warren could break this game open. They're not wrong, but that's only half the picture. This team still has leaders. Cam Heyward publicly challenged the locker room, saying the fight isn't there. That wasn't criticism, it was a captain demanding pride. TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Heyward are still one of the best fronts in football. The issue isn't effort or talent, it's chemistry and consistency, and that can be fixed. Mike Tomlin knows it. He didn't fire his coordinator. He didn't panic. He said 7 games don't make a season. That's classic Tomlin. When everyone counts him out, that's when his teams fight the hardest. The Steelers haven't forced a takeaway since week 4, and they've doubled their penalties since then. Clean that up, and this defense looks different overnight. And look around the AFC North. Nobody's running away with it. The Ravens are inconsistent, the Bengals are struggling, and the Browns are rebuilding. The Steelers are still right there, 4-3, and if this defense tightens up, they'll take control again. So go ahead, let the media call us paper champions. They said the same thing in 2005, and you know how that story ended. This defense isn't the worst of Tomlin's career, it's a defense in transition, a group that's been humbled and is about to respond. Steelers Nation, what do you think? Is this just a bad stretch or a real problem? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button and subscribe to Steelers Nation Wire for more real talk from the Black and Gold faithful. The critics talk, Pittsburgh responds.